He's the man. Time magazine names President-elect Donald Trump their Person of the Year. Avoiding a government shutdown and helping Mad Dog Mattis. How a stopgap funding bill will help Trump's pick for defense secretary. A message of hope. Pope Francis picks a new theme for his weekly talks. Why the Holy Father thinks we need hope now more than ever.
And I saw the red dots, and immediately I knew they were Japanese.
And remembering Pearl Harbor. 75 years ago, the event changed history. We'll hear from survivors in the nation's capital. On EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, December 7th, 2016. Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thanks to all of you watching around the world. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Donald Trump picks Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt, a longtime EPA critic, to head the environmental agency. And the president-elect is Time magazine's new Person of the Year. He accepts the honor as he continues to lay new groundwork for his presidency. He also picked retired General John Kelly to head his Homeland Security Department, and Iowa Governor Terry Branstad as ambassador to China. Trump also says he expects to name his Secretary of State next week. Former rival Mitt Romney is still in the running. And that Time magazine Person of the Year award ignites a controversy about whether Donald Trump should receive it. Calling it a very, very great honor, Donald Trump had only good things to say about the distinction, even though Time magazine labels him president of the divided states. Speaking to Time, he hints he'll soften his stance on immigration, saying, quote, "I want dreamers for our children also. We're going to work something out." Dreamers are children of immigrants brought to the country illegally as children. President Obama made it possible for them to get work permits. Trump's tough comments on the campaign trail have some Americans worried he would end the program. Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who met with Trump today, is urging him to keep the president's executive order. Emanuel, who was the president's first chief of staff, handed him a letter signed by 15 mayors from across the country. They support the executive order for Dreamers.
I was clear about where I stood and other mayors stood on immigrants, that we welcome them because they are achieving and striving for the American dream.
Trump's own dream keeps getting better and better. Some observers say the Time magazine Person of the Year honor certainly went to the most newsworthy individual of 2016.
He has definitely made an impact this year. I feel like they're feeding into the negativity.
It pushes the "not my president" hashtag narrative, which I think is actually the source of our divisions. And Trump rightly said, look, I didn't cause American divisions. I hope to heal them.
Trump is getting on with the business of building his cabinet. Last night, he appeared on stage with retired Marine General James Mattis, who has accepted the defense secretary post. While he'll need Senate confirmation, he will also require a special waiver from Congress. That special waiver shouldn't be hard to come by. A first step is included in a spending bill Congress is considering as they prepare today to adjourn until January 3rd. Jason Calvi joins us from the Capitol tonight with more. Jason.
Lauren, federal funding runs out in just 2 days. The stopgap measure boosts disaster relief as well as the fight against terrorism. The total package is more than $1 trillion. The spending bill would hand out $10 billion for military and diplomacy overseas, and $4.1 billion for disaster-ravaged Louisiana, North Carolina, and Texas. $170 million would go to Flint and other communities devastated by lead-tainted water. It would also fund the government through April, buying time for the new Congress and new president to create a budget.
It gives the new administration a chance to work with the legislative branch on priorities.
This spending bill is called a CR, a continuing resolution. It's needed because Congress didn't pass a dozen separate appropriation bills earlier this year.
The budgeting is really about making choices and setting priorities and dealing with the needs that the nation faces. And a continuing resolution is avoiding making those choices.
When Paul Ryan became Speaker 1 year ago, he promised the budget process would get back on track. He didn't deliver. But 2017 gives him a Republican in the White House and a Republican-led Congress. That will make it easier to get business done, at least in theory.
Do you think with a unified government next year we'll have actual 12 appropriations bills going through?
We haven't been able to do that for years.
But that's why Americans elect them to office, to spend tax dollars wisely.
That's our job here. We use the power of the purse when we pass appropriation measures one by one.
We are expecting the House votes on the spending bill tomorrow and then the Senate on Friday, and we are expecting it to pass. Lauren?
Jason, last night you told us about the 21st Century Cures Act, and that funds cancer research and opioid abuse, among other things. Get us up to date on that. Did that pass?
Yeah, it did pass the Senate today.
Yeah.
The vote totals were 94 for and then only just 5 against. It goes right to the president's desk, and he says as soon as he gets it, he'll sign it, Lauren.
Wasn't that great news? All right, Jason Calvi reporting from Capitol Hill. Thank you, Jason. Vice President-elect Mike Pence calls on conservatives to repeal Obamacare, expand the military, and cut taxes. He drew cheers last night when he said Donald Trump would follow through on his promise to nominate conservative justices.
And you may rest assured that our new president-elect will appoint justices to the Supreme Court of the United States of America in the tradition of the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia.
Pence told the Heritage Foundation the work is ahead of us, not behind us. Lawmakers in Ohio passed one of the toughest restrictions on abortion in America. The heartbeat bill would ban abortions the moment the heartbeat of a baby is detected, usually around 6 weeks into a pregnancy. Republican Governor John Kasich has 10 days to sign or veto the bill. He has expressed concerns about previous attempts to pass the bill. Texas releases an updated version of A Woman's Right to Know as well. That state law says the pro-life booklet must be given to pregnant women who are considering an abortion. It claims those women could face an increased risk of breast cancer and become suicidal and infertile. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. 2 juveniles face criminal charges for starting a deadly wildfire in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. The surviving victims are finally allowed to return home. The fires burned across the southeast for weeks, fueled by the worst drought in almost a decade. Nearly 2,000 buildings have been damaged or destroyed. 14 people have died. Nearly 100 people have been killed in an earthquake in Indonesia. Dozens more are seriously injured. The 6.5 magnitude tremor struck this morning, damaging homes and buildings. A plane crashes in Pakistan, killing all 48 people on board, including a Pakistani singer. The plane went down shortly after takeoff, about 45 miles northwest of the capital, Islamabad. It is not clear yet what caused the crash. And today, Americans mark the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, the surprise military strike that drew the United States into World War II. Wyatt Goolsbee has been out all day today. He spoke with survivors who gathered at the National World War II Memorial here in Washington. Wyatt?
Lauren, this is a difficult day for Pearl Harbor survivors and other World War II veterans. For them, an anniversary like this reminds them of the horrors of war, but they come here to places like the National World War II Memorial out of respect for their country and to honor those who lost their lives. World War II veterans, their friends and families honor those who lost their lives on this day 75 years ago.
I think there's something good about remembering the past.
Richard Young, a Presbyterian minister and former Navy seaman, led today's prayer. The 94-year-old remembers that fateful day aboard the USS Warden when his younger brother woke him and told him they were under attack.
I ran with him up topside, and I saw the red dots, and immediately I knew they were Japanese. So I ran back down yelling, "The Japs are attacking, the Japs are attacking."
Little did Young know that the Japanese attack would leave more than 2,300 servicemen and women dead and more than 1,000 injured.
So I heard the chief gunner's mate call out, if anyone's ever prayed, now's the time. So I knew what he meant, that a bomb was about to fall on us. So I said, "Lord, forgive me, I'm about to meet you. and the bomb went off. It had missed our ship about 25 yards.
Up to that point, the U.S. had remained neutral in the war. The next day, December 8th, President Franklin Roosevelt gave his famous speech to Congress.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
It was just 3 days later, on December 11th, when Roosevelt sent a letter to Congress recommending a declaration of war against Italy and Nazi Germany.
By all the peoples of the world who are determined to remain free.
95-year-old Army veteran William Flatters, who also survived Pearl Harbor, traveled to D.C. from Brownsville, Texas. His advice for the younger generations?
Just try to keep our country. Keep it clear and free.
In attendance at today's ceremony was Vice President-elect Mike Pence, as well as Senator John McCain, who himself was a former prisoner of war. Now, Mike Pence did not speak. John McCain gave the keynote, thanking World War II veterans for their service, as well as reminding younger generations not to become complacent about American rights and freedoms. Lauren?
Wyatt Goolsby reporting from the World War II Memorial in Washington. Thank you, Wyatt. Coming up, our report from Rome about the 4 temptations the media can fall into, according to Pope Francis. And social media savvy. More from my one-on-one interview with the new Bishop of Arlington, Virginia. He'll tell us who writes his Twitter posts. Today, the saint for the bees. It's the feast day of St. Ambrose. He was the Bishop of Milan, Italy, and is known as a doctor of the church. St. Ambrose enriched church music. Several of the hymns he wrote are still part of the liturgy today. After finishing his year-long series of teachings on mercy last week, Pope Francis has chosen a new theme for his weekly reflections: hope. He pointed out that this Christian virtue is particularly important during this season of Advent.
Ne abbiamo tanto bisogno in questi tempi che appaiono oscuri.
Pope Francis says we need hope now more than ever in these dark times when we feel lost in the face of wickedness and the violence that surrounds us. But he added that we should never give up hope because God, with his love, journeys with us. And the Holy Father calls on the media to be clean and transparent and to reject what is dirty and base. In an interview with a Belgian Catholic newspaper, the pontiff addresses issues ranging from the recent Year of Mercy to the Synod on the Family. These are topics that have dominated the headlines for the last 2 years, but it's what he had to say about the media that's making headlines today. The newspaper tweeted out a picture of journalists involved in meeting Francis. Terzio is a weekly magazine. Elise Harris, Rome correspondent for EWTN's Catholic News Agency, joins us from the Eternal City. Thank you so much for being here. You know, in this interview, Pope Francis says news organizations have the power to do a lot of good. But at the same time, he said there are 4 temptations the media can fall into. What are they?
Pope Francis really came out swinging to journalists today. You know, he cautioned, first of all, against slander, dragging someone through the mud. That was his first major point. The second was defamation. So ruining someone's good name and even taking things from their past that maybe have been resolved and using that to destroy them in the future. So that was another one. He also warned against misinformation and really taking things and only saying part of the truth instead of the whole picture. And then, of course, the need to focus, or the attitude of focusing only on scandal instead of the good things that happen also.
Well, you know, here in the U.S., we've been through a very contentious presidential election. We saw the media falling into these temptations on a daily basis. Also, there's been the proliferation of fake news, including causing a shooting at a pizzeria here in Washington. How does the Holy Father view the impact of misinformation?
You know, he really sees it. One thing he mentioned in the interview was the effect that media can have on public opinion and on society as a whole. So his real concern there was that if we give people, especially in misinformation, just half of the truth or only part of the full picture, people are really forming their opinions and making judgments on faulty information. Or maybe it's not faulty, but it's not the full picture. So you can't really make a good informed judgment or decision when you don't really have all the information that you need. So that was his big concern in the interview today that came across.
Well, but that's not true for EWTN News Nightly. Anyway, what is the Pope's advice for those of us who are in the news business? And we have to face this every single day, as you know, Elise.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the Pope said some really beautiful things. He said that we need to focus on just staying clean and staying transparent. So just do what our mission entails, being honest, clean and transparent in everything that we do. And he said if we can stick to those things and if we can succeed at that, we can be a real force and power for good in society, and we can help shape society in a very positive way.
Elise Harris, Rome correspondent for EWTN's Catholic News Agency. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lauren. Have a good evening.
A bishop who tweets. Newly installed Bishop Michael Burbage of Arlington, Virginia, spoke to me earlier this week about why he does it and how he plans to get youth to Mass. It's part 3 of my conversation with the bishop. The youth in this country are, according to many research and many studies, having a terrible time reconciling their beliefs with the church and therefore aren't attending Mass. What do you believe is the way the Catholic Church should minister to youth?
I'm very blessed in coming to a diocese here in Arlington that's known for its tremendous success in reaching out to young adults and to youth through various ministries. And I think that's the key. You have to go where the youth are. You have to engage them. You have to invite in creative ways. How can we get them involved?
Not just youth, but adults are also falling off from the Catholic Church. How do you convey the importance of attending Mass on Sundays? I mean, what it means to be a Catholic is to attend Mass on Sundays, to go to confession at least once a year. And many are Christmas and Easter Catholics.
It has to have a starting point of helping the adults there to understand discipleship. You know, you are a follower of Christ. You are a disciple. You are in a relationship with Christ. How can we help you to strengthen that? And it's only once that's understood that it's going to be natural. Then I want to be with the Lord. I want to hear His word. I want to receive Him in my life.
One of the reasons that I came to EWTN is because I met the Pope and sensed the aura around him of peace. And I just wish that many more people could meet him to feel that, because it brought me closer to Christ.
Right. You can help. It's contagious.
That's it.
Right. And I know the day when he came to the United States, when he met with all the bishops, I left so renewed in my ministry. I mean, I just couldn't wait to get home and continue being a bishop because I was so inspired by him.
He is also a social media maven.
Yes.
And you also tweet every day.
I
So
do.
There's a way in which you have learned from him. Why do you do that?
It's a great way to begin the day. I try to usually tweet a short message on the gospel of the day. And I like to get it out before 8 o'clock. Sometimes that was used in our schools as the prayer or as a meditation. Sometimes people are on their way to work. And so it gives them like the thought of the day. And it's actually very helpful to me personally, because you're reading the gospel and you have just a short
140 characters.
Right. So,
you gotta whittle it down.
And so what is it, Lord? You pray that morning. What is it, Lord, you want me to say to your people? And you pray it's the Holy Spirit giving you that thought. And that's very helpful to people in their spiritual lives. Just a thought for the day.
Okay, well, best of luck to you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Here
I
in
really
the
appreciate that.
Arlington Diocese. Up next, 2 women who grew up in Hawaii during the Pearl Harbor attack. Why they don't share the same memories. And I'll talk to the author of Pearl Harbor, From Infamy to Greatness, and the new information he uncovered about the event that changed America. A survivor of the attack on Pearl Harbor says it's still too difficult to talk about 75 years later. Many people have vivid memories of that day, including 2 women who were young schoolgirls at the time.
Anxious to see Emma. Can hardly wait.
It's a journey of 100 miles, but for Joan Rodby, It's a trip back in time. A reunion for Rodby and Emma Veary. They grew up in Hawaii and went to school together.
Oh, how nice. Childhood friends.
Veary, now 86, recalls something else, watching the attack of Pearl Harbor from a neighbor's roof.
Well, we could see that. We could see the airplanes flying and bombing, you know.
And the black smoke.
And the black smoke, yeah, and the fires.
Those tense days immortalized in a class photo. Children with gas masks around their necks in case of another attack.
They'd put us in rooms, remember, and they'd put gas in the rooms, and we'd go in
to
make sure,
to test
yeah,
it,
and
to make sure that it fit.
So that's Emma Veary.
And Joan Martin.
Yeah, and you don't remember any of your other classmates?
2,500 miles away in southern Oregon, Florence Cito has the same photo, but not all of the same memories.
And the woman came screaming out of her two-story house. And her exact sentence was, "The Japs are bombing Pearl Harbor."
Cito lived in Honolulu with her Japanese parents. After the bombing, a different fear set in. Internment camps. When her father was falsely accused by white neighbors of hoarding canned goods, business acquaintances stepped in.
So the military did not come and take him away. He was very lucky. If those Caucasian businessmen had not spoken to vouch for my father, I guess we would have all been taken to the internment camp.
Memories Cito shares with her daughter and granddaughter.
I was a cute little kid. Look at that. My sister made that dress.
You had to sit there and take it till they're all done.
Lauren Bruner holds on to a different photo from that time. He was a sailor on board the USS Arizona.
There's parts of this whole thing that they can't talk about. If I do talk about it, I cannot sleep.
The 32,000-ton Arizona again.
Bruner can still recall the glint from the gold-capped teeth of the Japanese pilot who shot his leg as the Arizona went down. More than 2,300 servicemen died that day.
We were burned all over. So they got hoops for the bed. So they put the blankets over.
Different memories.
But you clearly made the lays.
Changed lives. At night. As a nation recalls its loss and honors its heroes 75 years later.
Calling and calling to me.
Craig Nelson, author of Pearl Harbor, From Infamy to Greatness, joins us. Boy, what a story that was that we just heard, and I'm sure you have so many like that, don't you?
Met so many sons and daughters of survivors who say that their father could never tell them what happened, and some of them carried their stories all the way to the grave. It's a terrible thing.
This book came out in September, and you said that you have uncovered new information. What is that about?
Well, the last big book on Pearl Harbor was researched 50 years ago, and since that time, we have all new material about what was going on behind the scenes with both the American and the Japanese governments, as well as all new first-person accounts from both servicemen and civilians who was there. One of my favorite stories about a 6-year-old girl whose door of her house is set on fire by a strafing attacking Japanese plane. And she gets caught up in the excitement because she's a little girl and she's hiding in the cane fields, and it's almost like hide and seek. And then she realizes her dog is missing and maybe it's dead, and the tragedy hits her little heart.
What about people of faith? Can you tell me a little bit about what you found out, maybe Catholics or Christians, other people of faith?
There's two famous stories, and I want to share them with you because they both involve Catholic chaplains. One of them was aboard a ship, and you know, as a chaplain, you're not supposed to provide any kind of support for war making. And he's sitting there, and he's upset that he can't really do anything, and he's sort of useless. And then he sees a little, there were 16-year-olds working on the ship. He sees this little skinny boy carrying a huge bag of powder up to the deck, and he goes, "That's it, boys, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition." And that becomes a famous song that inspired America across the 40s. Another more serious story involves a chaplain who is stuck in the capsized Oklahoma, and he's at a cell that has a 18-inch porthole, and he's too large to get out. So he'll save the life of every man he can while knowing that he won't survive.
Oh, You know, that day we had the 14th largest military, and now ours is the largest. We're hearing these personal stories. The attack lasted 79 minutes and had such an amazing impact. It transformed America. How so?
Well, I really feel that the birth of our modern nation has more to do with December 7th, 1941 than it does with July 4th, 1776. If you look at where America stands today, that we're the premier superpower on the globe, that we have the biggest army and navy, that we have our nuclear arsenal, that we have our profound State Department and foreign aid, that we've set up the United Nations to help peaceably settle differences, all of these things are a reaction to Pearl Harbor. So I really think that, and we've kept World War III from happening for 70 years. I think that's quite a legacy.
I could sit here and talk to you forever. I guess I'm just going to have to settle with reading your book. Craig Nelson, author of Pearl Harbor, From Infamy to Greatness. Thank you so much for joining us. And that does it for all of us here at the EWTN News Nightly team. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lauren Ashburn. We leave you tonight with more images of the Pope greeting pilgrims today at the Vatican. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Good night, and God bless.